Hi everyone, this is Scott Dudley from Funnel Fella Radio, and today I've got a very special guest all the way over from Connecticut in the States, Brian Kurtz. How's it going, Brian?
Hey Scott, how you doing? This is we have to organize the time right with Australia and Connecticut, but we got a good time, so that's good.
Yeah, well, there wasn't too many options, so this is just about the best time of the day, but yeah, it works for both of us, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, you're ready to go to sleep, and I'm ready to start my day.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so just before we started, I just want to quickly show a couple of the books and stuff that you've released that I've purchased and obviously read through. So, of course, there's the main one, Over Deliver, which I've read this one about 4 or 5 times, and the majority of the
Wow.
stuff for this podcast is from this book. So, yeah, this one's fantastic. Also, the Advertising Solution I just got recently. I haven't had a chance to read this one yet, but I'll get there
Yeah,
soon.
that one is like a it's it talks about 6 legends of marketing and advertising, and I think the key is on that book is that it's kind of a shortcut to those 6 legends because it's Caples and it's Ogilvy and it's Halbert and it's Schwartz and Collier and Hopkins, and you can get the gist of their work in this book. That's why I wanted to do it with Craig Simpson, because we wanted to let people who were new to the business get those 6 guys at least in their system before they went further on any of them. And it was a good book, and actually it inspired me to do Over Deliver.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, perfect. All right, and then just quickly, I don't want to go on for too long for this, but there's the main one that tightens a direct response, which is an awesome package of everything, basically, from a really special event that you did a few years ago.
Yeah, 2014. That was it's kind of old news on a way, but it was kind of launched my second career, so that was good.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. All right, so let's get stuck into it. So yeah, maybe if we just start off with a sort of a super condensed version of your background and career in direct marketing, because otherwise we could be here for like 3 days. But yeah, what's a condensed version?
Yeah, I got to give you the condensed version because it's 40 years. But I basically, I've had 2 careers. My first career was 34 years helping Boardroom, which was an iconic publisher of books and newsletters, all direct marketing, mostly direct mail in the early days. That's where I cut my teeth. In fact, chapter 3 of Over Deliver is how paying postage made me a better marketer. And it's all about, the discipline that it took. Not that direct mail is better than any other medium, but it is a medium that requires a lot more discipline because you're paying for postage and printing, and you need to make sure that before you hit send, or at least send it to the post office, like an email, you hit send, but hitting send is sending it to the postal service. And before you mail, names, you really have to be totally sure that your lists are good, your offer's good, your creative is right. And so I think it taught me a lot about online marketing, even though online marketing wasn't around back then. So, but it was a really great career. I never met a medium I didn't like. I tested everything. I would say that I always say that testing the back of yogurt lids and ATM receipts were only a good idea at the time. They were not, the back of yogurt lids, you say, oh, that's a good idea. Well, you got yogurt on it when you take it off, and not a really great way to, even the toll-free number gets smudged. And ATM receipts, people throw them away. So but just to give you an indication, there's not a medium that I probably haven't tested. In the early days, the media was finite. It was, direct mail, print, TV, radio, package inserts, that kind of stuff. And I was able to sort of test everything at one point. Today, it's, advertising opportunities are infinite. And so that's the part that I find fascinating. I find it like I'm a kid in a candy store. I'm a student every day, even though I've been in it for 40 years. And it's the most exciting time to ever be a marketer. So the first 34 years was Boardroom, testing every medium. We got our newsletter, Bottom Line Personal, to 1 million subscribers. We sold millions and millions of books. I have a lot of stories about that on my blog page. And it was a great career. And then in 2014, I did the Titans of Direct Response. And shortly after that, I realized that I needed, as Jay Abraham always said to me, if you did it, you have to teach it. And so, I was at a stage in my life where, I really didn't, it wasn't about the money. It was about, taking what I had done and really teaching a new generation, like being the bridge, connecting the eternal truths of direct marketing of the past and connecting them to everything that's state of the art today. What I realize is that state of the art today is stuff that I know, but stuff that I don't know. And so, because I don't know what I don't know, I put myself in rooms where I was by far not the smartest person in the room. I always like to not be the smartest person in the room, because then you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
And so that's where, while Over Deliver, my second book, is more of, my career at Boardroom and then since Boardroom, I really felt it was kind of an opus to that point, but I really emphasize that I'm in a teaching mode now. So my new business, Titans Marketing, which has been around 5 years, is an educational business. It's so I sell those books. I have the rights to Gene Schwartz's books. I think we're going to talk about Gene in a little bit. I have the rights to his 2 books. I've done a couple of amazing swipe files of classic copywriters like Bill Jamie and Jim Rutz. So, I mean, I have not an e-commerce. I have products that are all education oriented. And I'd say, it's funny, I have those, and I have 2 mastermind groups, and I have a lot of stuff going on. And I realized that the most important thing that I do in my business is writing my weekly blog post, because, it's interesting, not because I mean, sometimes I sell stuff in there in the PS, but I need to connect with my audience on a regular basis so that, and I wrote this last week in my blog, so I can fish without bait, so that, I don't have to make an offer every time. If I make an offer, you don't have to take it, but you still want to read my blog, hopefully.
Yeah.
And the idea is to, everything is not a revenue event, but everything is a relationship event. And that's what the last 5 years are about. And I'm not a nonprofit. I'm not saying I don't want to sell. Joe Polish once said I'm the director of sales prevention, but that's not my game. It's I'm selling a lot of stuff and I'm doing very well, but that's not the point of my business. The point of my business is to share and teach and learn. And in that, you get paid, because I did a blog post a few weeks ago that was the 5 ways we get paid, and the 5th is cash. And that's from Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach. And it's funny because, you look at, and that's what my business is about now. And the 4 ways before cash is utilization. You utilize me. I enhance you. I appreciate you. I refer you. And then in return, whether I don't do it with an expectation of return, but what happens is then I get to utilize you if it works. You enhance me if it works. You appreciate me if it works. You refer me if it works. And then obviously you're going to make money from all that. But you have to go in with 100-0 expectations so that you don't do everything as a quid pro quo, or that if I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's not what it's about. And by going in 100-0 with that mindset of using those 4 things, I realize that is kind of my business right now, and it's been phenomenal. I mean, my work's my play, and it's great. So that's kind of like my 2 careers. I guess the overview of my 2 careers is that I spent the first 34 years mailing, a couple of billion pieces of direct mail and all kinds of other media, and I made probably a couple of $1 billion worth of business, but it was $39 at a time. And I know that this is the funnel cast. So back then, we had a funnel, but it was $39, $39, $39, $39, and renewals of the newsletters. which is a funnel, but it's not the same as what we look at today. And then my new business is basically, I would say maybe 300 to 400 businesses that are in my masterminds, and then another 8,000 on my list. And I basically teach that group to go out and basically go forth and multiply. And that's the way that I am able to, and that's all at high ticket. So I have a $25,000 mastermind. I had an 11,500 mastermind. I've got a $200 a month mastermind. And so because I want all of those people to go out and do direct marketing the way I teach it and the way I've learned it, and I'm learning it, that becomes my new business. And it's an exciting time. It really is.
Yeah, I had a look at some of the prices on your blog, and they are pretty high ticket, but obviously with all of that experience that you can pass on, it's definitely worth it. So
yeah, and as far as like the swipe files and the Gene Schwartz stuff, it's sort of, the Gene Schwartz books, breakthrough advertising I sell for $125, and it's the cheapest price you can get, because if you go on eBay or Amazon, it's like 300 minimum and up to 800. And Brilliance Breakthrough, I think, there was a $5,000 book on there, and I'm selling it for $195 with an exclusive workbook. It is high ticket for books, and then the swipe files, I sell for $295, but it's such priceless, valuable information, and it's still cheaper than so I'm not price gouging, but I do have high ticket. So, but I think the audience, and I'm not going after everybody. I'm going after seasoned copywriters and beginners, seasoned marketers and beginners, both, because I'm trying to cover, some things that might not, and we'll talk about some of them, I think, but things that, the average marketer or copywriter might not be aware of.
Fair enough. All right, cool. So talking about the book Over Deliver now. So in that book, you mentioned that you're diagnosed with cancer a few years back. And
yeah, 2008.
Interestingly enough, the first person that you called was a copywriter after you saw your doctor, of course, Paris Lampropoulos. And the reason being that he dived so deeply into that subject to research for his copywriting projects and was basically the expert in that topic. So this was your example of a person who focused so deeply on a narrow sort of topic. So with this in mind, what advice would you have for someone who's just getting started with funnels, as far as they don't spread themselves too thin?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that is so critical when you're starting out, because there's so many bright objects out there that you can go to, right?
Yes,
and so
way too many. Yeah,
one too many. So the idea is to pick a few media, that I always work with Perry Marshall's Maze 2.0, which is basically online, offline, live, and recorded. And then you get 4 boxes. And the idea is to actually pick one, pick them, and there's thousands of things you can put in those 4 boxes. And the idea is to pick 1 in each box, or no more than 2, because that'll look like you're everywhere. That's your media. But, when it comes to the subject matter here, especially for a copywriter, is that, if you're starting out, and even if you're a marketer, I mean, you want to be able to go a mile deep as opposed to a mile wide. So I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2008. And as you say, and as I said in the book, after going to my doctor, I called Paris because he had done some of the most amazing promotions on alternative treatments for prostate cancer. And I was stage 2, so it wasn't like I was going for radiation or chemotherapy the next day. So he was a perfect guy to call to find out what the alternative versus the traditional treatments were. It so happened I did both. I did have an operation. I had a radical prostatectomy, but I also, I looked at a lot of the supplements that he was selling, because he had dived so deep into that category, and he knew what was fluff and what had, double blind tests, and what was more, legitimate. And so then I guess, I don't know if it was around that time, and it's also in my book, I talked about, Paris is one of those, top 10 copywriters. And so, I mean, these are the A-listers.
Yeah.
And I looked at all the A-listers that I had worked with over the years: Gary Bencivenga, Gene Schwartz, Paris Lampropoulos, Clayton Makepeace, all these people.
Yeah.
And I tried to identify like what every one of them had in common. And I came up with, I'll do them quickly, but there were 7 things, and I have them in the book. But the 7 things were hunger, being able to go deep, because you want to get to the best information all the time, that you want to write all the time. And it's basically kind of like, Malcolm Gladwell's thing about, you got to have 10,000 hours to achieve mastery. Maybe it's 7,500 hours, but you're not going to do it in 2 hours. So the hunger is really important. And then insatiable curiosity, being so curious, finding out what's not in the book, what's not in the newsletter, what's not there on the surface that you can go deep on. So having this incredible curiosity. And then the third thing was having great feedback loops. So if you're writing, you would write, you can't write by committee, but you write a package or write a sales letter, and that you have a really good feedback loop, whether it's another copywriter, another marketer in the same category. And you can do that back and forth, so you can get really good feedback loops from people at the highest level. And sometimes if you're a beginner, you have to pay for that. You go to a copywriter like Paris and maybe have him do a copy chief. The fourth thing is passion. That's why when Paris went deep, it wasn't his first rodeo, but he went really deep in prostate cancer and became an incredible expert. And if you have passion for a product, you'll go deeper than anybody else.
Yeah.
The fifth thing is direct marketing knowledge. And this is really important for copywriters, especially because you don't want to just write for food. You don't want to just, get assigned a project, write the project, and then, get paid and go on to the next project. You want to know direct marketing principles. We'll go over a couple, but, things like RFM, lifetime value, the 40-40-20 rule, and we can talk about those. But the idea is to understand direct marketing so you become a partner to your client in a way that you're irreplaceable and not just writing for food. The sixth thing is humility. With all of that and all of that experience, being humble is really important too, and really understanding your competition, who you lost to, who you beat, and having a healthy respect for the other copywriters and marketers. And then the seventh thing is, pride in your work. And it's funny that the seventh thing, showing your work, is usually the first thing you get from a copywriter. Send me your portfolio.
Yeah,
and
true.
They can send it to you, but I want to see how they are sized up on those other 6 things before I really look at it. I mean, if the hunger is there, if the insatiable curiosity is there, if the feedback loops and the people they hang around with is there, if the passion is there, if the direct marketing knowledge is there, if the humility is there, their work is going to show it. It's going to show that it's good. And then when I looked at those 7 items, they're actually true for marketers too. That a great marketer is going to have those same basic instincts and mindsets to really create great products and services. So, Paris is one of those guys that is just, really epitomizes what it means to go deep and not wide immediately.
Okay, excellent. All right, so on to the next question. One concept that you're famous for is going from online to offline, or could be the reverse, as you mentioned, offline to online to offline, also known as O to O to O for short. Can you explain this a little bit and how this would relate to modern day funnels in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, it's very related. It's just that, most funnels today, and I don't really like the word. I mean, I was doing funnels in the 80s, but funnels today are complicated. They're good, but I was watching somebody on one of my Titans Accelerator Mastermind. I had a guest speaker who was showing. He was a Facebook expert. He was showing how you went from a Facebook ad to a PDF and then went into the funnel. And he showed how complicated it can get. And that's good. I mean, people, some people have a mind for that. And, it's the free plus shipping and handling book and all of that. And you can do that if you want. My thing is starting with the media, and I go back to, Perry's Maze 2.0 of, you want to be, you want to have a combination of things: offline, online, live, and recorded. Like a recorded offline item would be a book, okay?
Okay.
A live offline item would be a live event. A live online would be a Facebook Live. A recorded online would be a webinar. You have 4 different things there, and people will go online to offline on a regular basis. Now, you want to meet your customer where they are. I'm not recommending direct mail for everybody. I'm
Yeah.
not recommending Facebook for everybody, although everybody, wants to be on Facebook because it's so large.
Yes.
But there are, anybody who is just in one of those quadrants will say, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of that stuff. It's okay, but I think not only for being able to watch your customers and how they move online to offline, but also, diversification is really important too, because if any of those shut you down, and Facebook and Google can shut you down in a heartbeat, you want to be able to have alternatives to your business. I know a guy had a $30 million business, 100% on Amazon, and Amazon didn't like one of his ads, and they shut him down, and he was out of business.
Yeah.
And so, you don't want to be dependent. That's an easy thing. As far as in the funnel thing, I think what's interesting is that anybody who originates offline, like let's say if you get a customer in direct mail, and then you can get them onto your email list, which you can easily with an opt-in or whatever.
Yep.
The idea of going offline to online, which is hard because offline is going to cost you more money, whether it's TV, radio, direct mail, print. But if they come in on direct mail and get online, those people generally have, and you can ask any online marketer who does anything offline, those customers have a much higher lifetime value. They stay with you longer because the offline promotion is generally going to be a longer sales letter, a longer video sales letter, a longer something that is going to get them. Video sales letter wouldn't be direct mail, and that would be online. But the idea is engagement. So longer engagement leads to longer lifetime value. And I proved this a lot in direct mail because I had tests of, longer copy versus shorter copy. And the shorter copy, or quick hits, I get a much higher front end response, but a much lower renewal and back end response. But the sales letters that were longer, I used to do magalogs in direct mail, 32 pages. I do 64-page bookalogs, like digest sides. They look like a booklet, but it's a direct mail piece. And the people who responded to that would respond much lower on the front end, like 2% instead of 5%, but they pay up at 45% and they renew at 60%. So the lifetime value, and it's always about, I have this section in my book, I call it, how you sell is how they respond.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important. So if you sell a certain way with lengthy copy that really is engaging, that's going to get you somebody who's, and you can do it online too, but you can't start, with a cold traffic and hit them with a, an hour-long video sales letter. You have to romance them a little bit into that. But, those kinds of people are going to stick with you a lot longer than the person who comes on with a $10 gimmick, and then you give them a bunch of other gimmicks in the funnel. So, the funnels today, I think, they have to ascend, price-wise, but they also have to ascend in terms of the depth of the topic that you're going into, and you have to differentiate by how they respond to the early parts of the funnel and how they're going to respond to the latter parts of the funnel. And the latter parts of the funnel could easily be direct mail. I love using direct mail on the back end of an online business. That's the other way to do it. Most people aren't going to be skilled enough to do direct mail to get them online. But if you're getting a nice email list, the idea is that if you're selling them on email, my mastermind is $25,000. I don't have to resell them on the mastermind until the year is up. But I send them a lot of things in direct mail. I mean, direct mail is not a campaign. It's basically to my 30 mastermind members, I'll send a book if it comes out, and I'll prepare 30. And you send something in an envelope, first class mail, that's relevant and it has a reason for being. That's a great stick strategy in itself, especially when you're getting $25,000
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're trying to renew them every year. So, that's direct mail on the back of an online business, because, I got the mastermind members on a Zoom call just like this. I would go, one-on-one. I'd get them into the mastermind once they were interested. My other mastermind is all done online with the $200 a month, $2,000 a year mastermind. That's done online, but then I'm live every week, giving them instruction and having guest speakers. And I'm constantly giving them, in fact, I send them, this is direct mail. It's a monthly USB.
Okay.
With all of the content from that month. So this is the May Titans Accelerator. So
Yep.
in this direct mail, there's all of the calls, there's an interview, there's a swipe file. And I send this because I want there to be some physical product, even if, someone thinks they're all digital. Everybody still checks their mail.
Yeah, so what you're basically saying is that a physical address is worth a lot more than an email address, isn't it?
That's a good question. I think, I don't know if it's worth a lot more. I think email is still the killer app. Like, email is still the best way to market to people, to fish in the pond, get them to raise their hand for different questions or whatever. So I'd say the email, but the thing is, having both, it really
both.
is having both,
Yeah.
gives you the option to go O to O, to O, to O, to O, to O. And I think, every online business that's sold anything on a credit card has the physical address.
Yes.
The beauty of your physical address also in the US anyway, is that it's an opt-out medium, not an opt-in. So with email, they have to opt in or double opt in. And if they unsubscribe, they unsubscribe. And they have to opt in first and then they unsubscribe. With a physical address, you can mail people and it's an opt-out. So you can mail them as soon as you have their physical address. And until they say, uncle, stop, of course, you don't want to abuse it. You want to do it, you want to romance them in a different way.
Yeah.
It's an opt-out medium. Basically they are on your list until proven otherwise, until they unsubscribe. And you have a do not, in direct mail, you have a do not mail list that people are on, and you use that as a suppression file when you mail your list. But it's an opt-out medium, not an opt-in medium, and that makes it very attractive. I wouldn't say it's worth more. I would say that I'd say your email list is still worth more if it's clean and it's not abused. But the beauty of a direct mail list is that mailboxes are emptier. It's got other things, and if you can combine them, that's the O to O to O, and your funnel should include both. I think. That's all.
Okay. Awesome. So moving on to the next question. So you mentioned the legendary Eugene Schwartz was a friend, mentor, and business partner all in one. So for a 46-year-old guy living in Perth, a bit of a marketing freak, that's just amazing. But so tell us a little bit about what Gene was like in person and the one thing you admired the most about him.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. I mean, I've lived long enough to have overlapped with Gene Schwartz. But and he was a real Renaissance man. He was, as a mentor, I didn't say, Gene, be my mentor. He kind of chose me. And I always say, your mentors choose you, you don't choose them. And with Gene, it was like that because Gene was writing for Boardroom. He was good friends with Marty Edelston. So that was to my benefit. He had no reason to befriend me. So I had to just figure out what I had that he could use on 100-0. Like I would figure out what could I help him with.
Yeah.
So he was writing packages for us. He was an amazing guy because he had his own little publishing company, and he would actually write his copy for boardrooms' names. We had a lot of health names, and he had little health books. He realized that getting 750,000 of our names for every package that he wrote for us was worth so much more than getting $50,000 or $100,000, because he would use those names to sell his own books, which then he had his funnels. And
okay.
so if you did a spreadsheet as to flat rate or royalty for the package versus names, because he was mailing, it was an incredible deal for him and an incredible deal for us. You know, we had the names. You know, this isn't like affiliate deals and direct mail. You just give the person the names. You're not endorsing them. And he would just mail those names and make, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I admired his foresight about that. He always was thinking about the marketing angle and not just the copy angle. And Breakthrough Advertising, you know, is not just a copywriting book. It's a marketing book. It's a human behavior book. When he talks about states of awareness and talks about, he always says the copywriter doesn't create the desire. The desire is already in the marketplace. The copywriter has to hone it and focus in on it. And so that was a big thing I admired about him. But I admired his knack for knowing human behavior and culture, even at every level. I mean, you know, he lived in a penthouse on Park Avenue in New York, and yet he knew what America was all about because he was a voracious reader. I have a huge library. I have a huge library, as you can see.
Oh, gee, that is huge.
Yeah. But, you know, I haven't read everything. I find I'm a slow reader, and I've read a little bit of every book there, but not every book. And so Gene was a voracious reader. He was just he was a phenomenal, and you know, his favorite magazine was the National Enquirer, but he read you know, scientific journals, and he read medical publications. So he was just an amazing font of information, which obviously made him a great copywriter because he was insatiable curiosity. He was hungry. He had passion in everything. So there's a lot there that what's that?
He worked super hard as well, you mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. He used to, you know, if he was writing for a book, he would go through the book and underline everything in the book and create what he called fascinations or bullet points from the book. And, you know, that was what he'd have in his direct mail piece. He would, and he talks about that. I think I have an interview. I think on my advertising solution resources page, I have a video of him at Rodale Press, and he talks about, and he used the Pomodoro method of 33 minutes, 33 seconds.
Yes.
Writing, and then he got up, and so there was so many things to admire. I think where he was able to become my mentor, and used to invite me to his house for lunch, and his house was like a museum. I mean, he had, you know, different paintings. He had all these paintings, modern art, and he had them all in storage, and every couple of months he would replace everything in the apartment with another set of new prints. So going to lunch with him was always a new event in terms of the art. But the thing that I did I realized when I met him, I was a list expert. I was one of the best list managers in the country. I'm not bragging. I'm just, you know, the competition wasn't that stiff. So I became one of the best list managers. So I was managing the boardroom list, but boardroom was mailing a lot of lists too. So I knew all the health lists and the consumer lists that we were mailing. And I offered to look at Gene's mail plans for his little books. He was mailing my list, he was mailing Rodale, but he was not mailing a lot of great lists that I was mailing. So I did a full list reco for him, a couple of list recos, and I just gave him all the best lists that we were mailing with the segmentation of them, you know, everything. And I think I just did that. I didn't do that for him to become my mentor. I did that because I wanted to help him, and I wanted to do it. And because I did it that way, you know, he started inviting me to his house for lunch, and we became really good friends. And, you know, after he died, I was able to get the rights to his books from his wife, Barbara, because she knew how he felt about me and I felt about him. And, you know, not getting Barbara's permission to publish those books, it never would have happened. So everything happens, you know, for a reason. And, you know, I developed the relationship, but it was one of the you know, certainly one of the highlights of my career.
Absolutely, yeah. That's just amazing. All right. In your book, you talk about the 41-39-20 ratio, which I found pretty fascinating. Can you please go into that sort of briefly? And also, why I was wondering why you didn't include technology in the ratio.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the 41-39-20 ratio comes from something that's been out there for a long time, which is the 40-40-20 rule.
Yep.
I mean, it's not an exact science, but if you look at any direct marketing campaign, it's usually, you know, they used to say it's 40% list is important, the 40% your offer, and 20% the messaging and the creative.
Yep.
I kind of made it 41-39-20 because I thought the 41% should be the list. And the reason why I think the list is the most important is, and of course, the creative is not the least important. The creative is only the least important until it's not. And what I mean by that, it looks like on the surface that at 20%, the creative is half as important as the offer of the list. It's not. The 41% is the list, because you've got to get the list and the segmentation and the audience and the avatar. You've got to get that right. Because if you have the best creative and the best offer and the list is way off, you'll get 0 orders, whether it's online, offline, anywhere. But if you have a really good list with a moderate offer, just an offer for your product or service, and mediocre creative, especially online, you'll make some sales. You'll get some sales. You won't go through the roof, and you won't be, you know, working at nirvana level in direct marketing, but you will, you'll get some sales. So the key is to get the list right, get the offer right, and then invest heavily in the creative, because that puts the 3-legged stool on steroids, and then you're going full steam ahead.
It's like the icing on the cake.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But the creative, you know, is the most important thing once you have the other two in place, because the creative is the thing that can basically give you 100% lifts. Because if you come up with a new creative approach with a great offer and a great list, that's going to really turn, because the lists are the list. Once you get them dialed in, you're in pretty good shape. Once you get the offer dialed in, you're in pretty good shape.
Yep.
The creative can change like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And that could be so powerful. And so, and why I don't include, I think technology is really important. But I think in the book I said there was something, I was researching this on Google, and there was something about someone who said the 40-40-20 rule is dead, and it's the 25-25-25-25 rule. And that person said it's 25% list, 25% offer, 25% creative, and 25% technology. And I was like appalled by that. First of all, to equate the creative at the outset with list and offer, you can't. I mean, even if you want to make them, you know, 35, 35, 30 or so. I mean, the list has to be the most important when you're starting out. But, you know, so that was off, that those three are equal. And the fourth thing, the technology, to me, the technology is more about the technique, not the idea. The idea is the product, the service, the offer, the technique is just part of what you do in doing the list segmentation. Use technology for that, like quiz funnels and segmentation. With the offers, you can find all sorts of funnels and all kinds of things that you can use. And the creative, especially, you can find all sorts of techniques to do that'll make your creative really great when people order and they have upsells and cross sells. But to me, the creative, and I have a quote in the book that's from Bill Bernbach, who's one of the madmen of the 60s in advertising. And he said, never adapt your idea to the technique, and the technique being some technology.
That's right.
Yeah, adapt your technique to the idea. Get an idea, know what you're doing, list, offer, creative, and then decide what technology to use. Technology plays a huge role today, obviously. You know, I'm not a Luddite, but to put it on the same par as list, offer, creative didn't make sense to me.
It sounds like it should almost be its own category, like a separate animal, basically.
Yeah.
That's what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, yeah.
Super important. It's a technique. It's just techniques.
Yeah,
and
that
that's
makes
important.
sense.
Yes.
All right, hopefully Zoom don't kick us off soon. So next I wanted to talk a little bit about RFM. You've mentioned you're sometimes shocked how many people practicing direct response marketing today are not even aware of the term, or that analysing RFM on their customer list might be the most critical and basic thing to do over everything else. So how can a modern day marketer sort of approach the RFM strategy, and what is it, I guess, as well?
Yeah, RFM is just, it's actually it's not even a direct marketing rule of thumb or a direct response marketing rule of thumb. It's it's kind of a human behavior formula. And what it stands for is recency, frequency, and monetary value. And I go over it in detail in my book, but you know, recency is that it says that someone who responded more recently is more valuable than someone who responded less recently. So, I mean, that goes without saying when you talk about funnel.
Yes.
You know, someone who just bought is right to buy something else. Now, you don't want to inundate them. You want to have downsells. You want to do things in your funnels that make sense, but they're hot to try. And so without taking advantage, you want to have, you know, different things that you can sell them, either, you know, within, you know, in real time online, or within a week or 2 weeks or a month. So you want to have that recency. Frequency, you combine frequency with recency, meaning that they bought more than once or multiple times. So someone who bought in the last, you know, month, who's also bought 3 other products from you, you know, a year ago, that's a incredibly valuable person. And the fact that they recently bought and they bought multiple products, they are a VIP. That's somebody that you really want to focus in on and separate them from your normal prospect list.
I think you almost mentioned that you should have lunch with them or something. Did you say
that? That was an example where I said, I had a friend who's got an online business and she sells about 18 products. And we were looking at a grid of how many people bought the product. So one person bought like, you know, for 10,000 people, we'll say, you know, 9,000 or 8,000 bought one product. And then it was another, you know, 500 people bought 2, and then 300 people bought 3. And there was one person who bought all 18 products, and it wasn't her mother or her sister or somebody like that. And I said, for emphasis, I said, this person, like, when are you going to invite them over for dinner?
That's it.
I mean, that's a person that you want to talk to. I mean, you want to find out what else you could supply. This is not just a groupie. This is like an ultimate groupie.
Well, you would have been half joking, but half serious, wouldn't you?
Exactly, because I would certainly get on the phone with them and say, you know, you're like my best customer. Really tell them. And I really appreciate it. Send them a free something, send them a gift, send them something, and ask them questions. You know, why do you buy everything from me? What's the best product? What's the least, you know, and then you get ideas for other products and things like that. And we used to do that in our business. We didn't have 18 products. We had 18 products, but no one bought 18. But we had people who bought, you know, 3 and 4 products with recency. And those are the people that we surveyed to basically launch new products. So we would, you know, do what we call a concept test, where we would test 6 concepts. You know, would you buy, would you not buy? But the list for that were multi-buyers who were recent. And, you know, those are people that you want to get their opinion all the time, because they're your VIPs. They're the people that, you know, they're your missionaries. They're your, you know, the people that are going to, you know, they're your potential affiliates if you're doing affiliate marketing. So you really want to survey them on a regular basis as well.
Yeah, and so without doing this RFM process and segmenting your list properly, you wouldn't even know who they are, and that's just crazy, really.
Right, and you
Yeah.
can, RFM, we used to do it on a 9 million name database. You can do it on 100 name data, on 100 names.
Yeah, that's
You know,
right. Yeah.
I mean, it's basically, it's how people behave in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so you could have things on RFM, you know, you could have a 1 month buyer in online versus a 1 month buyer offline, and have those separated, and decide whether you want the offline person to become online and the online person to go offline, that kind of thing. You could also, you know, with frequent buyers, you wanna come up with what's the next thing. I mean, you know, cold traffic is such a big term these days. Let's go after cold traffic. And
Yeah.
to me, when you're going after cold traffic, meaning an outside list or a list that doesn't know you, you want to basically do your cold traffic marketing with the second order in mind, because that's going to get you renewals. That's going to get you a second order if you have a second product that's related to the first. And of course, if you have a second, third, and fourth product, that's even better. But, you know, if you're starting out, think about what your second product's going to be when you're going after cold traffic, because a product isn't a business. A promotion's not a business. It could be lucrative and you can make money, but it's not really a business for the long haul.
Yeah. So as you said, you weren't selling products, you were selling renewals. That was
That's right.
the key
That
lesson.
became our,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's right. And that was our funnel. Our funnel was renewals and cross-promoting our other books and newsletters.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So just to finish off, where can people go to find out more about you and your products and services?
Well, since you mentioned the two books, that's one way. And if I have resource sites for both of the books. So if you buy either one of my books, and you should go to the sites where I have incredible swipe files, videos, courses, PDFs. And if you go to one of those sites, you'll get on my list. I do a Sunday blog every week.
Yep.
That is, I don't do affiliates, so it's not high sell. It's all content. But to get on my list, you could get on my list that way. And for the advertising solution, you go to thelegendsbook.com. That's thelegendsbook.com. And for overdeliver, you go to overdeliverbook.com, www.overdeliverbook.com. You go there. There's buttons to buy the book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I mean, go to Amazon, $17 for overdeliver, and it's like $11 or $12 for advertising solution. Come back to the site, and then you put your order number in and you get access to incredible bonuses.
Yeah.
So that's legendsbook.com, overdeliverbook.com. If you're too cheap to buy a book, and that's fine, all you have to do is go to www.briankurtz, BRIANKURTZ.net, and get on my list. And my website has a lot of free content, all my blogs going back 5 years. And, you'll get the gist of where I'm at by being on the list. And I hope that anybody in your universe, mostly, I guess a lot of them are in Australia. I love Australians. A lot of them are in my masterminds.
Okay.
And I just love having them. So just, opt in at briankurtz.net, and you'll be in my orbit. And you don't have to buy. You can just read my blog every week and enjoy that.
Excellent. Well, that's fantastic interview, Brian. I really enjoyed that, and really appreciate you putting the time in as well, because I know you're a very busy guy. So I better let you run.
Thank you, Scott.
And
yes.
all the best. Thank you.
Take care, Scott.